So Byron Jones just signed a 5-year contract worth $82 million. So quite the big deal there. It averages $16.5 million a year, a total guarantee of $57 million. So absolutely, Miami, they're paying Byron Jones a ton of money. They really wanted him. And, my gut reaction is this is an overpay, but worth mentioning, they have plenty of cap space. The real reason why I'm a little bit lukewarm on this trade is simply because I'm not a huge fan of Byron Jones. I just think that he's a bit overrated. But that being said, I actually think that this might be the perfect system for him. And so let me just get into what I like about Byron Jones, what I don't love about him, and then I can sort of talk about why I think he fits well in this system. So first, let's just get into the positives. We'll start things off with the positives, and one thing I really like about him will be shown on a play like this, where it's going to be a cover 3 zone, and Philadelphia, they're going to try to attack Jones on this play. This was in that Week 16 matchup, a game that did not go Dallas's way. However, Jones really showed up in this game, and what's going to happen is that basically this is a play designed to pick on Jones. So they're going to have their receiver at the top half of the screen run that route right there. And the idea behind this route is to get Jones, who's supposed to be in the zone that's deep on the top half of the screen, to then move further towards the middle of the field. And when he's in the middle of the field, they can have their tight end run that route, and hopefully he will get open. That's the way this play is designed to work. However, after the ball is snapped, notice Jones here, and notice how he's still making sure that he keeps his eyes on Wentz. This is what you're supposed to do in zone coverage, but it's often easier said than done, especially when you do have a receiver who's running a pretty good route in front of you. However, Jones is going to realize what's going on. He realizes that the pass is going to go to that Philadelphia player, so watch how he quickly moves off of his assigned man, gets over to make sure that he knocks the ball away from a tight end, and that's just a great play from him right there. I think that his football IQ is very good, and it's important to have a guy in the secondary who has a good football IQ. I kind of feel like Brian Flores, he's kind of going by the Bill Belichick model, where, so many franchises, so many teams, so many coaches will decide, let's build up our defensive line first, and then we'll kind of worry about the secondary later. If we can rush you quickly, then we don't need a great secondary. But Belichick does the opposite. He gets guys who can play man coverage, and then he'll just blitz you a bunch, and you can be in trouble, or he won't blitz you, but you still won't be able to get anybody open, and he'll be able to generate pressure just because nobody will be open. And so I do think that Flores and the Miami Dolphins adding a good corner, listen, I said that I think he's a bit overrated. I still think he's good, and he can play in man coverage. Like, take a look at this play where it's going to be a one-on-one matchup. He's just going straight up against the New York Jets player right here. And right after the ball is snapped, you notice that he doesn't do a great job at the line. That is one thing that should be mentioned about Jones, is I do feel like he kind of struggles at the line. He can struggle in press coverage to some degree. And at this point, he is right along with a receiver. And typically when this happens, it means that the receiver is going to get open. He had an extra couple of steps to accelerate, so you would definitely expect there to be some separation, no doubt about it. However, Jones is able to keep pace of him pretty much all the way, and is even able to then knock the ball away, largely because there just wasn't that much separation, because he does have that great acceleration, which really does matter so much in a cornerback position, especially if you aren't the best in press coverage and you aren't the best at the line. If you can accelerate, well, you can make up for that. So sure, he gets speed at the line, but it doesn't matter because he can accelerate quick enough that he's able to run over and knock the ball away. So that is definitely one thing that I do really like about Jones, is his acceleration. He's a smart player. And one other thing that doesn't always get talked about when it comes to cornerbacks, but is very important in the cornerback position, is tackling. You want a corner who can make some tackles, and without a doubt, Jones is a great tackling corner. Like, on this play, what's going to happen is that Philadelphia, they're not even going to block Jones at the line. What they're going to do is they're going to have their 2 eligible receivers on the top half of the screen run out to block those 2 Cowboys, meaning that Jones over there is getting unblocked. It's going to be a run up to the top half of the screen. They fake as though it's a run to the bottom half of the screen, but as you see now, what Jones does is pretty good. He makes sure that he reads what's going on. He does get further down to the middle of the field, But, it could be argued that he's a little bit too close to the middle of the field because all Miles Sanders has to do is cut around like that. And if he can get around Jones, I mean, there's a safety who's back, but that's the only guy who could stop Sanders at this point. However, Jones is able to run over and make a very good tackle. He does not allow Sanders to gain many yards. And that's what Jones can do is, if you try to run sort of towards the outside like that, you try to pick on Jones in the running game, it's not going to work out too well. He is a very good tackling corner, and that matters. That is something that I think is very important. Okay, so now I've talked a good amount about what I like about Jones. I think those are my three biggest things, is that he has a good football IQ, he's a very good tackler, and I think his acceleration is good. But keep in mind the one negative I've already brought up, which is I don't think he's great at the line. Now, in the middle of the field, his acceleration is so good, it doesn't matter too much. But in the red zone, there's not really too much room to operate. And he's actually a pretty below average guy in the red zone. I mean, just look at the numbers. Actually, in fact, Jones's numbers are terrible. Now, you can't just look at the numbers, of course, but his statistics are very bad. I mean, over his career and his 5 years at Dallas, he gave up 20 touchdowns and only had 2 interceptions. In fact, he only had 15 pass breakups. So he was more likely to give up an interception in a game than to have multiple pass defenses, which is definitely not a great thing. Also, his passer rating has always been high. His career passer rating is 97. Last year it was 94.1, which was his second best of his career, only behind 2 years ago when he had 92.6. But an element of that as well is the fact that he doesn't get many interceptions, only 2 over his career in 5 years, nearly 5,000 snaps. He's at 4,903 snaps and only 2 interceptions, which is definitely very low. And the 20 touchdowns, those are very heavily weighted with passer ratings, so that does factor in. But I do want to bring up how he performs in the red zone. Like, take a look at this play, for example. He's going up one-on-one against a New York receiver. That receiver is running a quick slant route over here. And take a look at what happens right when the ball is snapped. Jones is going to try to initiate contact right here, but it doesn't work out at all. His assigned man very quickly gets to the inside. It's weird because Jones isn't a small guy by any means for defensive back standards. He's 6 feet tall, 200 pounds, so definitely on the smaller side, but it's not like he's just, actually weighed in at 205, but yeah, not a big difference. So he's definitely a bit skinny, but it's not like crazy skinny. However, clearly, I mean, I think that he probably would benefit if he gained an extra 10 pounds or so in the red zone, but the dilemma is, if he were to do that, would he be losing something in the middle of the field? But anyways, this just isn't good positioning right here. Darnold makes the throw, and this is actually going to be a pass interference. The ball was incomplete, but Jones pulled his hand down. I'll show the other replay real quick. You do see him sort of pull the receiver's arm down a little bit. Definitely not a great play by Jones. And this plays another similar example. This is the red zone situation at the 10-yard line, going up against the Patriots, one-on-one against N'Keal Harry. And Harry is just going to run a route, trying to get into the end zone. Pretty simple, nothing too fancy. But what you're going to see Harry do is use his body to basically just try to box out Jones. At this point, it looks like there isn't too much separation, but there's actually a pretty good amount because keep in mind, in a red zone situation, you're going to kind of put the ball where either it's going to be a catch or it's just going to fall incomplete, because the last thing you want to do on a play like this is throw an interception. Brady makes a very good throw, and Jones just can't reach over there to make that catch. But again, because of the body positioning, he was never going to get over there to make that play. So that's kind of the problem with Jones in the red zone, is his size. Now, there is one bright side. With Jones going to Miami, now he is going to be playing opposite Xavier Howard, who, he's a little bit skinnier but a little bit taller, 6'1", 192. The interceptions per red zone snap are about similar, but again, Jones isn't necessarily terrible in the red zone. It's just the one area he doesn't necessarily excel. And so having another guy who I think is better in the red zone, I mean, Howard's a guy who gets more interceptions. I think he gets more pass breakups. So in certain situations, it might make more sense to just put Howard on the number 1 guy and then let Jones be your number 2 guy on like third down and short plays or on the red zone situations. So you can kind of hide Jones's biggest weakness. In doing that, you're getting maybe one of the best pure cover corners who admittedly doesn't necessarily get a lot of interceptions, but that's okay. I mean, a guy who can make sure that he doesn't allow many receptions is definitely a good thing, and he definitely doesn't allow many receptions, and he almost never gets beat deep, which is two things that are very good about Jones. So, yeah, I mean, again, it's a lot of money, but the Dolphins have money, so why not spend it? And you kind of do have to overpay when you haven't won a playoff game in quite some time. And the main reason why I'm going to sit here and say that I actually like this move, even though I do think in a vacuum it's an overpay, is because I clearly see what the plan is that Miami is trying to operate with here. They're trying to build from the back end, and to do that, you need some good corners. And now to have Howard and Jones, which might be the best 1-2 corner punch in the NFL, maybe. I mean, I'd probably still go Baltimore, but they're definitely up there, no doubt about it. So yeah, that's my thoughts. I'd like to know what you guys think. What do you think of the Jones, this whole decision? Do you think this is the correct move or not the correct move? Always love hearing from you guys. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.